It was just after 3 a.m. on Sunday 7th September 2025. Roysambu was quiet after the previous night of partying, and a chilling mystery had begun to unfold. This was inside one apartment block on Lumumba Drive, where chaos unraveled. A young man was alive, laughing, and moving between friends just moments before his final hour. This was Victor Mwangi, just 25 years old. Victor would be found moments later barely breathing. Friends rushed him to JCK Hospital, but by 4 a.m., he was gone. At first, they said it was a fall and a tragic accident. But doctors noticed something strange. Victor's injuries were not just from falling. His chest, his face, and legs all bore the marks of a beating. Someone had attacked him before he hit the ground that tragic night. Neighbors remember hearing shouting, a fight, and then silence. By the time the police arrived, the scene was too clean and too quiet. It was a death that shook Kasarani to its core. Not just because of the brutality, but because of the unanswered questions it left behind. How did a night of fun spiral into a fatal encounter? Who pushed or forced Victor from the fourth floor of an apartment block? And why were the people he was last seen with so reluctant to speak? Hello and welcome to Dark Hour Docs, where we uncover the darkest crimes, the unanswered questions, and the haunting truths left behind. This is not just the story of a death. It's the unraveling of a secret night, the silence of friends, and the haunting echoes of justice demanded by a grieving Martha.
Detectives from Kasarani police station are holding 6 suspects in connection with the suspicious death of Victor Mwangi.
Anishi cha Victor Mwangi
Sustained blunt force trauma with multiple injuries on his body before his death.
Lumumba Drive Roysambu.
Victor Mwangi's story begins far from the chaos of the Roysambu apartment block, where his life would end. Victor was born in the year 2000, only 25 years old, and was raised in Nyeri. He was his family's pride and joy. His father, Bernard Mwangi, would later tell reporters that Victor was his only son, a statement that deepened the tragedy and underlined the family's sense of loss. Victor's uncle, Stephen Mwangi, has been one of the most vocal in demanding answers. He described Victor's death as painful and suspicious. Friends described Victor as ambitious and grounded, the kind of young man who spoke often about building a better future. He had recently started working in the city, taking small jobs that promised him stability and a chance to support his family. Those close to him remember his easy laugh, his love for football, and his habit of mediating small disputes among his friends. He was dependable, the one who would show up when called upon and cover the bill when no one else could. To his family, Victor was more than just a son. He was their hope and their legacy. Being their only son, he was their source of joy. To his parents, Victor was not just a child. He was their greatest achievement and the reason they kept pressing on despite the hardship. On Saturday night, September 6, 2025, Victor made what seemed like a simple decision. He attended a small gathering with friends in Roysambu. The apartment on Lumumba Drive was a familiar territory for him, and the plan was so ordinary. Enjoy a night of music, drinks, and conversations with friends to wind down the week. Unbeknown to him, this ordinary choice would lead to an extraordinary tragedy. As the night stretched past midnight, something shifted. The happy mood of partying was replaced by raised voices, a commotion, and what sounded like a fight. What happened behind that apartment door remains the heart of this mystery. The people he trusted the most, those he called friends, would become the very puzzle pieces police tried to fit together after his brutal death. As the hours ticked closer to midnight, Victor's story was no longer just about who he was, but what was about to happen to him. And in this transition from his life to his death, lies the shadow of betrayal that will haunt this case forever. On September 6, 2025, the fourth floor of an apartment on Lumumba Drive in Roysambu was buzzing as usual. That Saturday night, the apartment was lit with neon lights and music blared across the room. The night was raving with an energy that is reminiscent of a Nairobi party, the kind of energy that defines Nairobi's nightlife in Roysambu. Victor, alongside several other friends, walked into the flat ready to enjoy the night. At first, the evening seemed ordinary. Drinks were passed around, conversations were loud, and laughter filled the room. At around 2:08 a.m., CCTV footage shows several young women entering and exiting the building repeatedly. Movements that were an indication of what was happening inside. Maybe the fun and chaos of the night. However, hours later, the atmosphere in the apartment shifted as the night wore on. What began as a casual gathering soon transformed into something darker. Sometime after 2:30 a.m., an altercation broke and everything spiraled out of control. One neighbor reported hearing shouting, scuffles, and hurried footsteps in the corridor. What would later follow was an eerie silence. At this point, Victor's life took a deadly turn. While in the company of friends, Victor fell from the fourth floor of the building. He would be found motionless on the ground floor of the apartment complex by 3 a.m. At exactly 3 a.m., CCTV footage captures an Uber arriving at the scene and later departing. The car would later be traced to the JCK hospital at 3:36 a.m. During this time, CCTV captures a man in a white t-shirt entering the JCK hospital and blood all over his shirt. He is accompanied by two other men, one who is the driver of the vehicle. He is later admitted at 3:47 a.m. One of them, labeled a Good Samaritan in police reports, was uneasy, his shirt soaked in blood. He was among the 3 people who had taken Victor to hospital. Doctors tried to resuscitate him, but Victor's vital signs were gone. At exactly 4:27 a.m., he was declared dead. A night of fun marked with a tragic ending. This was no ordinary accident. This was a staged night gone wrong. The CCTV, the uneasy Samaritan, and the frantic Uber ride all suggested something more sinister. What happened inside that fourth floor apartment remains clouded. But one fact was clear. Victor did not walk out alive. Detectives were able to reconstruct Victor's final hours using CCTV footage, suspect statements, and a neighbor's testimony. The picture that emerged was murky, layered with contradictions. According to the suspects at the party, Victor had been heavily intoxicated. According to them, at some point, Victor stumbled towards the balcony and lost his balance. They claimed that his fall was accidental. However, the post-mortem speaks louder. According to the hospital manager at JCK Hospital, Peter Mwirore, the case is not as simple as it seems. He said that when Victor was brought into the hospital, he had fractures along the ribs and chest walls. He had suffered blunt force trauma, injuries that were inconsistent with a single fall. This is where the chilling twist emerges. What at first looked like a tragic accident now reveals darker undertones. The night's laughter had already turned sour. A neighbor who witnessed the events of that night spoke of a fracas. Instead of just a tumble, a fight erupted in the apartment. The neighbor stressed that Victor was accused of hitting someone's sister at the party. Whoever the sister was, and the details of those heated moments, remained shrouded in silence. Was it a spark that lit the fire leading to a fight? So here comes the most pressing question. Was Victor's fall an accident, or was he pushed, thrown, and forced out? Multiple blunt force injuries were inconsistent with a simple fall. They tell a different story, one of a man beaten before being discarded. Because the broken ribs and marks on his body indicate that someone may have allegedly attacked Victor. This may have led to a push and the fall from the fourth floor. Adding to this grim picture, the witness purports that what led next may have been a cover-up. The same neighbor recalls seeing something being wiped near the gate and people shuffling in and out in the dead of night. This must have been the victim's blood as a way of evidence erasure. This quiet and deliberate movement is a clear suggestion of a manipulation of the scene and any possible evidence. Additionally, the nervousness of the people involved and timeline of events raises alarms. Victor arrived at JCK Hospital at around 3:47 a.m., but his vital signs were already gone. Was precious time wasted and medical help delayed due to a higher concern with covering tracks instead of saving a life? The pattern is unmistakable: an altercation, a brutal assault, a hasty cover-up, and a carefully staged narrative of a fall. This wasn't just a night gone wrong, it was a secret carried by too many hands. And the silence of what occurred that night still shields the truth. 6 people have since been arrested in relation to Victor's death. Their statements reportedly conflict. Most say Victor fell accidentally, while the witness suggests an argument and use of force. What remains unclear is why the suspect's statements are so closely aligned, almost as if rehearsed. And the uneasiness in the CCTV footage at the hospital, was it proof that the helping party was complicit or simply overwhelmed? The death of Victor Mwangi is more than just another statistic in Nairobi's crime files. It is a haunting reminder of how quickly trust can be betrayed. It's also an indication of how a night of companionship can spiral into tragedy. For his guardians, justice is not just about arrest. It's about closure, about knowing why their only son never came back home. The CCTV footage, the staged statements, and the contradictions at the heart of this case ensure it will not fade quietly. It raises questions about the company we keep, the dangers of nightlife in Nairobi, and the silent betrayals that can turn friends into suspects. As detectives in Kasarani continue their probe, Victor's story lingers in the air around Lumumba Drive. A chilling echo of a young man whose dreams ended violently on a night meant for laughter. So tonight, we leave you with this question. In a city where shadows move faster than the truth, who really knows what happened on that 4th floor? And who among Victor's friends carries the secret that could finally unlock justice? This has been Dark Our Dogs. Thanks for watching.